So the artists that I've chosen to compare are pretty different, but one is called Psychic Outlaw, and they are an online shop based in Austin, Texas. And the second one is a multimedia artist named Sharona Franklin, who is based in Vancouver, British Columbia. So Sharona Franklin is the first one who I'm going to talk about. She mainly displays her work at galleries uh, before and also during COVID. She does not have a website or a blog, but she mainly uses Instagram to exhibit her work. She has a pretty large following and often receives requests or um, just companies reaching out to collaborate and utilize her work in their marketing schemes just because they are so unique and eye catching and can hold different objects. But yeah, she works with gelatin cakes mainly and incorporates different botanicals and everyday objects into them. And her inspiration behind this mode of sculpture is based mainly on um, a chronic illness that she lives with and was diagnosed with at the age of 4 called Still's disease, which causes her many different physical ailments and internal um, disorders. Um, so by making these sculptures, she's really just referencing the fragility of the human body and the ways in which it morphs, mutates, decays, and also regenerates over time through different external forces. She also includes different everyday objects that are often domestic or related to elements of her treatment, such as needles and pills. She describes her sculptures as bioshrines in that they are an homage to her illness. Um, She is actually mainly bedbound for the majority of the average day, but is still able to have this very impressive practice and create a lot of these cakes. Um, and because uh, she is living with this illness that really impacts her mobility and just like living in general. I think that having these sorts of tools like Instagram is really important for these sorts of artists and displaying their works, just because it if you don't have the energy to go out and market yourself, necessarily just being able to take a picture and display it is really important and useful. And I think most people feel like that anyways, even if they don't have a chronic illness. But yeah, she displays at many different galleries across North America. And with her work, you can see it sort of morph and decay and deteriorate throughout the exhibition, and just how much that relates to humans and time and the lifespan of humans and the human body. This is an example of the ways that she works with textile and the photography that she takes, which is often sort of like still lifes of everyday objects, which are then printed onto fabric, and they're often again related to her illness that she lives with. And so she mainly just describes her practice and the objects that she uses within her practice as a celebration, like a celebration to live comfortably and be able to continue making art and displaying it through treatment and being able to have access to her medication and different treatments that she needs. which is available through biotechnological testing and biopharmacology. Really, she describes her work as an autobiography of a daily ritual which involves self-injection and treatment of a genetic disease. But through her work, she hopes to demystify medical treatment and incorporate it more into popular culture. She also has another account that is more personal, where she still documents her practice and the cakes that she makes, but also shares the articles and interviews that she is featured in, which is a lot, and it's a really good way to see those through her Instagram. She also documents and posts some digital zines that she makes, which are also very key to her practice in the ways that she spreads information about living with a disability or just methodologies of healthcare. So that was Sharona Franklin, and now for Psychic Outlaw. They are, as I stated before, an online shop which is based in Austin, Texas, and it is run by 14 different individuals who all work together to run their Instagram and their shop, as well as sew these jackets. And the jackets are custom. They are made of mainly vintage quilts, and the way that they kind of market themselves is interesting because they allow their customers to go out and find a quilt that they particularly like, or even a quilt that they might already have that is like a family heirloom or whatnot, and then send it into them with their measurements and the style that they'd like, and the sewers and the team of that psychic outlaw will make it into a jacket for them. This is their online shop. It's pretty standardly laid out, and I think mainly they just use Instagram as a mode of documenting and just sharing their practice. But on their shop, you can see that they have an about page. They have a hiring section if you're even like an experienced seamstress and think that you could be a part of their production team. They have lookbooks, which include videos that they make displaying their garments that they've made in just different themes and settings. They also have a section for press where they show the different area or the different internet articles that they've been featured in and the different sites they're on. They also feature an interesting thing called a quilt drop, which happens every week. And so if if one of their customers cannot find a quilt on their own, or if they don't have one, Psychic Outlaw offers quilts that they have on their own, or they found on their own, and if someone is interested in one of the quilts, they can request it, send in their measurements again, and then they will receive that quilt. And so they drop about 20 quilts a week. And these are just a few more examples of the jackets that they make. I feel like this is a really interesting and intriguing way of marketing yourself and allowing this collaboration between the artist, the customer who may find the quilts or have the quilts on their own, and as well as the original maker of the quilt. It kind of caters to the whole trend of buying secondhand or vintage clothing, as well as slow fashion and supporting small businesses and artists. So, in conclusion, I feel like both of these artists or groups of artists really utilize Instagram in a very effective way through sharing and displaying their work um, before and during COVID, and still manage to be very successful, and um, just the ways in which it is a very like reliable tool in terms of creating a following and being able to distribute your work to people who may not see it otherwise, and um, just the fact that it allows people who don't have the funds or means to open up a actual physical store to still have an online portal that people can use and support throughout times like COVID, where you might want to buy something but are hesitant about going into an actual store or um, that kind of thing. Or in an artist case, like it is uh, any fine artist, it's like a very important tool, as we all know, in terms of sharing your work. But if you have some sort of uh, physical or other type of ailment that doesn't allow you to market yourself in the same sorts of ways, or if you have a job or like anything that takes up most of your time, just being able to utilize this tool as a way of sharing things like articles that you're a part of, um, things that you're interested in, and of course, just the work that you make in general to display to a very wide audience is it works obviously very effectively, and especially having these sorts of things right now is very key. So yeah, thank you for listening.